This is Salty Believer Unscripted. I'm Brian Catherman. With me is Josiah Walker, and we are walking through a conversation about the Christian journey. Joe, what's happening out in your neck of the woods?
Man, it is the warmest December on record out here in Salt Lake City. So I'm having a great winter. I'm excited to join you today on the podcast.
I'm glad that Zoom makes this possible. I want to get into this topic, but here's what I want to get into, Josiah. I want us to talk about training up the next generation, equipping the generation that's going to come behind us and bury us, how we're going to help the church continue faithfully, all this stuff, right? What's going on with young people? Yeah. So I want to start a series. I think, you know how we are with our series. I think I want to call it Equipping Beyond Us, but since we just came up with this on the fly, I'm going to have to work at that later. So that might not be the title that our listeners see. But before I go there, I want to do two things. First, I want to give an unsponsored shout out to somebody, like a commercial that they don't even know we're giving them. So I want to talk about something that I'm liking. You've mentioned him before. I want to talk about Tim Wildsmith and his whole thing with Bibles, books. You have been following him a bunch. My son follows him, and we had a little bit of interaction with him with the previous podcast. So Joe, tell me a little bit about Tim Wildsmith. He's, by the way, listeners, he doesn't know we're doing this. He's not paying us. We get nothing for this. We just wanted to give him a little shout out. What you got, Joe?
Yeah, I think we're the only podcast with unsponsored ads, but, you know, Tim Wildsmith, great dude. His whole mission with his purpose is to help people find a Bible that's right for them. You know, you've got to have a Bible that you want to read, that you want to dive into. And he's got a lot of tools and resources he started putting out to help people find a Bible that's right for them. He came out with a book, I think it was last year, called Bible Translations for Everyone.
Yeah.
A guide to finding a Bible that's right for you. And you know, he does Bible reviews, unboxings, really talks about translations, premium Bibles, cheap Bibles, everything Bible related, really.
He's also got a new book. It's called Daily Scripture Guidebook. It's a 52-week journey through the Bible, I guess. My son is doing that. Daniel, the intern, is doing that, really likes it. And then he has an accompanying podcast or video. It's all on YouTube. You can find him on YouTube. His website is timwildsmith.com. You can find all this stuff. But he has just a really helpful sort of thing. He's a young guy, cool guy. And since we're talking about equipping the next generation, that seems pretty relevant. Okay. Thank
you, Tim, for unknowingly being on our unsponsored ad, our first one. So
our first one. We had some back in the day when we were trying to get sponsored by Chick-fil-A, but we never actually gave them too much of a shout out. So guess what?
Work out.
We're going to do unsponsored ads because this channel is not monetized. We don't care about that. We just care about walking.
It's because it's an unscripted podcast, so we need to have unsponsored ads.
Stuff. This is so dumb. Okay, the second thing, I have a little bit of business we have to attend to. So I got a little bit of a nasty gram. I don't want to say it was a hate mail, and actually it was a rebuke, and I think it was correct. So in a previous podcast and in some previous podcasts, I have said, with maybe a little bit too much angst, I don't care about anybody except the people that I'm shepherding at the church. Right, this podcast is for the people at Redeeming Life, where Josiah's at, and the people at Trinity, where I'm at. We put this really hard, thing. And there's a reason for that, because we're trying to guard our heart from numbers, trying not to have some ministry out there where you're not going to your pastor if you're listening. And so we're trying to protect ourselves. I just saw, actually, Tim Wildsmith did a state of his podcast episode. Yeah. And he said, I'm going to spend less time getting focused on the numbers, and I'm just going to focus on this. Well, we're focusing on the churches we pastor, because we're going to have to stand and give an account before God on how we pastor them, and everybody else gets to eavesdrop into it. Well, I said, I don't care about that, and that's not true. I do care about those people who are being blessed and helped. I'm thankful for our listeners who have been on this journey. We've been doing this for 15 years, and we've had some people that have been along for the ride. I mean, I regularly text with a guy, and you know him, who has been listening since probably the inception of this podcast. And not related to me. He's not a family member. So that's pretty significant. I've talked to some people who've listened to every episode, and I don't even know why. That's pretty amazing to me. Yeah. And then, especially in these latter days, because we've been doing all this new stuff, trying to figure out how to do Zoom better, trying to figure out how to do video. And these have been, let's be honest, we've gone back to, while we have better equipment, the podcast has gotten kind of janky and crazy, right?
Yeah, it's weird to talk about the risk of this thing really exploding and being a huge deal when I can't even figure out how to sound half decent over Zoom. But
It keeps us humble.
The thing for us is you hear every year about these prominent religious Christian leaders falling from grace, having a sin stumble, those kind of things, because I think they kind of lose focus of their mission and their primary task. And so I think Brian and I are just trying to really humbly say, hey, our primary task is to shepherd and pastor our flock, and we just use this as a means to help them. If it's help, come along on the ride with us, but we're really just trying to be faithful stewards of what God's blessed us with.
And you don't know this, but our listeners and our viewers do. Your Zoom thing just froze for a second. So this is the hard stuff we're working with. Okay, let's talk about equipping the next generation. Let's talk about helping the people who are going to help us when we're super old and can't do anything for ourselves, but also doing some things right now, right? And I think you and I have been having conversations about young people, something going on in America. Like what you were telling me, Bible sales. Tell me about that. Talk with us about.
Yeah, apparently Bible sales have hit a record high as people are looking for answers and just trying to find kind of solutions to the brokenness in the world around us. So that's one aspect. I think young people as a whole are just looking for identity and purpose and mission. There was the Charlie Kirk shooting here in Utah, just about 40 minutes from our church.
You're throwing like way too much stuff at us. I want to hit all this stuff, so go back for a second to the Bible. So was that a survey that you saw, or have you seen multiple surveys?
It was from Lifeway Research was saying that.
The Bible sales are up.
Bible sales, yeah.
Okay, so more people are, which is always amazing to me because I always just sort of assume that everybody owns a Bible, but that, maybe they're buying a new Bible, but maybe they're buying a Bible for the first time. And I've met people who've never owned Bibles or did when they were a kid and didn't have one on the shelf. I've had people asking. We even have people, so it's crazy, and down the road from us where I'm located, we have people from a completely different religion, different culture, refugees that are literally asking for Bibles. So there's like a lot going on there. Okay, so and then you said you rapid fired like three things. So Bibles, what was the next thing you said?
Well, I was just saying that young people as a whole are looking for just identity and mission and purpose.
This much, that's very true. I think what's happening, so the survey that I saw, I think it was Barna, said that October of 2025 is when this survey came out. They said the church attendance levels, people who are attending church more, I think every week, or find that church is highly valuable and they want to attend, are back at the levels that they were at 2010. That people are coming back to that kind of attendance. So we saw a pretty good dip. With that's rounding and starting to go the other direction. Praise the Lord. But here's what's interesting. The reason for that is because more young people are coming to church. Quite a few more young people, but excuse me, even more so, it's young men. The young women have actually 20% more young men attend church than young women on a regular basis.
Wow.
And so the young men are coming back to church, which is fascinating to me because when I was, in 2010, the big conversation was, how do we get men to come to church? And now that script is flipped. Like, how do we get the young women to come to church? That's interesting. So that tells me God is doing something. You got Bible sales that are up.
Yeah.
You've got young men who are fired up, which I'm going to speculate. I don't know if this is true or not. You kind of hinted. You said they're looking for hope. Is that what you said? Looking for purpose?
Yeah, a mission, identity, purpose, hope.
I think, maybe I'm wrong. I think that stems out of a few things. I think for those who are maybe in the atheist zone or whatever, high into science, and you're being told okay, we're all science, we're all molecular biology, we're all cells. There's no moral lawgiver. There's no moral purpose in life. There's no higher calling for you but to survive, procreate, that sort of thing. That doesn't lend itself well to have hopes and dreams, flourish in this life, have higher purpose and meaning. That's not transcendent beyond selfishness, right? So I think all those things we were fed in that way are unfulfilling. And then you have the American dream, have a big house, have fancy cars, and everyone will think you're great, have this sort of picture perfect thing. That doesn't seem to be so great for young people. That seems to be completely crumbling on many levels for the next generations. And even people in the current generation, that's a tough one. So that's not answering the questions. And then you have careers. You know, it used to be like build yourself up, climb the corporate ladder. This is where you're going to find your identity. Isn't this going to be so great for you? And that doesn't seem to be panning out so well, especially in light of AI, taking jobs potentially, and this, technology doing X, Y, and Z, and who knows what. And I mean, like with all the crazy going on in the country, like, okay, that's complicated. And then what else did you say? You said Charlie Kirk, which, by the way, that was right in your backyard, the shooting. But
yeah, I mean, it was, about 40 minutes from our church, but it had a real effect on young people, on Gen Z people that were there, especially just those that were following him. But those here that were at that shooting, right? Like there was a lot for them to process coming out of that.
Okay, so let's just separate the part of being there versus not being there, because seeing a shooting is going to be a lot to process anyway. But I think if you're a young person, like most of these people that are really motivated in this, they were little kids when 9/11 happened, if they were even born, right? So there's that part. They haven't seen, and we haven't seen a lot of this in our country, people that are persecuted and shot for our beliefs. Now, I know there's a lot of people saying this was completely for Christianity, and that's a part of it. I'm not discrediting that, but I think it's also because of his conservative beliefs. So we saw this happening, when JFK's brother was assassinated, JFK was assassinated, and someone tried to shoot Reagan, and someone shot Lincoln, and these are presidents. Charlie Kirk's not a president, but in that time period, JFK, and I'm also not trying to elevate Charlie Kirk to that same level of government leadership or influence. However, there's something to be said about this person had conviction, he stood for something, and he was killed for it. Okay, so that's like, wait a minute, what is my life about, and what is this about? And that's jarring. That causes us to reflect on things, and if it is about his Christian faith, even more so. And then because he has Christian faith, people are like, well, what did he believe? And I want to understand that. And what was he willing to, like, what would be so volatile that we'd be here, right? That's interesting.
He was a vocal voice for that generation. I had somebody in my congregation who just, in trying to process all of that, kind of wrote a song about everything that had happened. I think what we need to recognize is who are the voices that are speaking into the next generation.
I think that's
where are these teenagers and young adults looking for answers and solutions? Because the world they're growing up in, you will attest to this because you've heard this from your own son, is very different from the world that you and I grew up in.
Oh, for sure. Would you want to go back and start right now at 16 in this world?
No.
Heck no.
Absolutely not.
They got it real tough. And then, so then here's the other thing. When I was younger and you'd go out to look for these answers, where most of this stuff was coming from for me, maybe it's true for you too, and I think for a lot of people, it was actually coming from pastors. There was a solid core of pastors that had been around for a long time. They'd been stable for a long time. And so you saw clips from church sermons and things. Well, for whatever reason, could be because some of these big-name pastors have stumbled. I think a lot of it is because a lot of them have died, and the next generation hasn't stepped up to fill the void. Those voices have disappeared. You think about all that.
Well,
they're retired. They're dying. There's not. I mean, pretty soon we won't have John Piper. We won't have. Let's see, Alistair Begg. Who are some of these older ones? I mean, we already R.C. Sproul, John MacArthur.
Tim Keller.
Tim Keller. Right? A lot of those voices have. They're not speaking into these things on a regular weekly basis, and so what's picked up is folks like Charlie Kirk. Tim Wildsmith would be a good example. Wes Huff. The guys that are doing things on college campuses, that are doing YouTube ministries, because there seems to be a void of those real Christian leaders, men that are leading in that way, in grounded theological ways. So now there's this interest, and we don't have those leaders, which is going to segue into why we need to start equipping those next voices, right?
Right.
Okay. That's a lot of setup for this. I want to do this as a series, Joe. I think we need to take these things and talk about them at a little bit more, a deeper level. I don't just want to give it a surface treatment. So I'm going to ask you what you think. I don't know if I've formed an opinion on this, but why, first of all, yes or no, do you think it's important we equip the next generation? Is it biblical? Just on that front, like what's your motivation for equipping the next generation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we 100% need to equip the next generation. We see that in Deuteronomy, where Moses is commanded to recite the law and commands the Israelites to remember the law and recite it to their children. Put it on your doorpost. Put it on your lentils. Share that to the next generation.
As you go, as you lie down, as you come, like all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Deuteronomy 6, right?
Yeah.
So I would go also to like when you look at Paul's model to Timothy and Titus and the commands to train up these young people. And it says in Timothy, 2 Timothy 4, like, don't let them despise you for your youth, but provide a good example, show yourself, making progress. So we definitely have biblical warrant for training up the next generation, train up those who can train up others, go make disciples of all the world and the young included. Beyond, well, definitely not beyond the Bible. The Bible's our ultimate authority, but alongside of this, what would be some other sort of practical, tangible things you see in your current circumstances that would lend itself to, should we be doing this? Like, what do you see in your context as you're out in Utah? I'm in Nebraska. Where you're at, why do we need to be raising up the next generation in Utah?
Sure. Well, on the one hand, a lot of our churches are going to be pastorless here in just a short few years. Like we've talked about, a lot of pastors are dying off and retiring. And so we're going to have a lot of churches that don't have a pastor, don't have a shepherd. But also just with AI and things like that, and just it's hard to tell what's true, what's real, what's genuine. And I think people are going to be looking for genuine answers and truth. And that's the kind of thing that I think we're going to see is why we're seeing people flock back to churches, as they want to see for their own eyes somebody standing in front of them expositing the word of God, and not something that's fake or AI or
YouTube
an AI generated video.
This podcast. You know what I like about our podcast? I don't think anybody believes that we've used AI to create this podcast.
Oh.
We have proven.
If we did, I'd have hair right now.
We have proven this is not an AI generated podcast. Okay, so I think this is also true in Nebraska. Same thing. I mean, pastorless churches, that's a reality. If you were to ask the question, like, what if the people 50 years old and up all stopped serving in the church across America, right? Just today stopped. Who would step up into their place? Are they equipped? Are they ready? What does it look like for the 40-year-olds? And then on that front, what does it look like for the 30-year-olds? What does it look like for the 20-year-olds? Like, this is important. So I want to talk about specific things in this series, but are you, just in your context, what are some things you feel like you're doing to help create an attitude, or maybe not doing or need to be doing, to create an attitude that this is what we need to do? Like, how would you be, how would Redeeming Life, or you, pastor, be communicating this to others that this is important?
Yeah, I mean, it was Jesus himself who said, let the little children come to me. And so one of the things we do here on a Sunday morning is we let our children serve in the worship service. I have my elementary age kids help collect the Lord's tithes and offerings as part of our service. And there might be people who think, well, children, why are they doing that? But they need to have a role. And so we need to kind of shepherd them and help them and walk with them on that.
And that's kind of an important
show them the
role.
Importance of that.
That's a good role. That says, hey, you're a part of this. And
also,
you guys,
I was no, go ahead.
I was going to say you have young people leading worship sometimes, or involved in the worship team. You have young people in your sound booth, right? I've watched your live stream.
Yeah.
I can't see the sound booth on the live stream, but
no, I feel like I'm already training up young people because my associate pastor is about 20 years younger than me. But then the person that he's training up is 10 years younger than him. And like you said, we've got 15-year-olds in the sound booth. I've got 18-year-olds back there learning. We've got to do something to kind of train up and have these people come in behind us.
I think that's true. So everything you said is true in Nebraska. Most of the pastors that I see in Nebraska, the majority of them are pushing retirement or well beyond retirement in some way. Most of the people that are serving in the church, at least where I'm at and around the area where I'm at, seem to be more senior, not these younger generations that we would hope. But also, there's a reality that we have to make space for them. We have to say, hey, come take the baton, come see and learn. And so I definitely see that there's an effort. At our church, we're trying really hard. We're trying to hire a young person, trying to get more young people on the leadership teams, and it's not just, hey, you're young, but actually there's a space for those who are coming up, who are becoming more godly, growing. God's working in their heart. I have 2 young men's groups. Like, no matter what you end up doing, let's be godly men and press into this and grow into this. You might become elders. Maybe you become a pastor. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just become a good, faithful church person. But if we don't actually put the investment into that, we're not going to have any, like, when's the best time to plant the tree? Well, 40 years ago. Well, we didn't do that. So when's the best time to plant a tree? Right now.
Along those same lines, I'm leading a small group for 2 or 3 guys on Saturday mornings. One guy is in his 30s, and I'm kind of working with him on how to lead that group. But then I've got a guy who's 18, just graduated high school, is in college age, and I'm working with him. And I've got a guy who's a little bit younger, about to turn 16, and I'm just trying to help show them it's important to be disciplined. It's important to follow Christ and just really help set them up for success.
Okay.
Just in the church, but in their life.
Absolutely. Here's what I want to do. These are the conversations I want us to have at a little bit more deeper level. I want to understand practically, what are you actually doing? How are you doing it? What sources are you using? How does a person who's not a pastor, how's a person who doesn't have leadership choices to make in a church still do this? How do churches do this? Like, what are things we're missing? I want to have these conversations, but we are out of time. So I think what I want to do is just start working through that. So if you're listening to this, you have questions, comments, thoughts, resources, we want to hear from you. You can email me. You can also email me nastygrams, apparently we've learned over the years. But you can email me, and we'll get this at SaltyBeliever@gmail.com. You can go to SaltyBeliever.com on the website, and you can, there's a contact form. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a comment, right? Like, we want to hear from you. What are you thinking? What questions do you have? What's working? But then we're going to break this down into some smaller things. I think the next one we need to do needs to be, how do I lead a small group or a one-on-one discipleship? Are your things with a whole group, or is it one-on-one?
I do a little bit of both.
Okay, so we can maybe
there's
break
a setting for each.
I think we could break those into 2 different podcasts. How do I do this with a younger person, especially when they're so different than me, and we go out to lunch, and he wants to go to a place where they only eat chicken nuggets and drink chocolate milk, and I'm just teasing Josiah because this has been our relationship, and I want to go get sushi. But different conversation altogether. But what are the mechanics, and how do we do this, and how do I make a bridge to either do one-on-one, which is important, with somebody with a generation or 2 younger than me? How do I start a small group? How do I lead a small group? What are some resources? I want to break these into some things. So I think those will be at least the first 2 coming up, and then we'll take some of these questions, and we'll just start talking about, what do we got to do to really be Christians who invest in the future should Jesus tarry and into the next generations. Joe, you got a final thought from God to leave us with?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we all have a role to disciple others. So I'm going to go back to Paul there in 2 Timothy. 2 Timothy chapter 2 says, "What you have heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, commit to faithful men who will be able to teach others also." Until next time.
Amen.